Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Every time I start talking about boxing, a white man got full rockin' my gun out there.
It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Oh, this hard goddamn work being this good.
One more again, see what I take on your front set, I swear.
You ain't my daddy, are you?
There's gonna be consequences and repercussions.
What time is it?
Game time proof.
Okay, welcome again to the Don't Be Blasé podcast. We're coming to you live from the House of Pain, otherwise known as Snap Fitness, the Adelaide CBD. I'm your host, Pete Caron, joined again by my man, the sober Steve Burrows.
Hey, how you going, buddy?
Before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Larry and Lad. Go see the boys on Region Arcade, get yourself an awesome coffee, and listen to some pretty sweet tunes. But for now, on with the show. Now, Steve.
Yo.
We did record our show last week, the Friday before the weekend.
Yep.
Something amazing happened over the weekend, and we really need to touch on it. And it sounds a little something like this.
We are the Navy Blues. We are the old dark Navy Blues. We're the team that never lets you down. We're the only team old Carlton knows. We're all the champions they like to send up. We'll keep our end up, and they will know that they've been playing against the famous old dark blues.
There we go, Steve. Okay. I know people were getting excited. You know, they must have checked their phones and gone, oh, that's it. The Blues won last weekend. We'll check the show on Wednesday, and it's this pre-recorded mess from the week before where Steve's slurring because he's drunk. So I thought for our fans that are die-hard Blues supporters, which is just me, we had to play the song because we only got the 2 wins for the year.
Yeah.
And I did promise we played every time.
And you won against Gold Coast last weekend.
We beat them so badly that Tom Lynch went, nah, I'm leaving.
done.
I want to play for this mob.
If we can't beat Carlton,
That's right.
Then there's no.
He's out, and then they went, well, if you want to leave, we're taking away the captaincy. And he's like, yeah, no worries, bro.
Who did you beat early in the year? Do you remember who you won?
Essendon.
Was it Essendon?
Yeah,
Okay.
traditional rivals. I was very happy with that. Well done. There's only maybe 2 or 3 teams every year that I want them to beat. I want them to beat the Crows. Never happens. I want them to beat Essendon. I want them to beat Collingwood. And I want them to beat Richmond.
Yeah,
They're the 4 that I really
and
want to see.
Gold Coast.
Oh, I've got to say Gold Coast. Traditional rivals, you know. So that's good. We got up. We are going to have a little recap of last show. Now, Steve, how was the hangover on Saturday?
Well, that wasn't my fault, you see.
Oh,
because the other boys, they do a tradition of where they start with a shot
Yes.
at the start of the recording. And we recorded second.
Yes.
And their show went for a while. So there was a lot of beverages consumed. It was never intended to go that way. It just happened to go that way.
Sounds like you're really on your 3rd step here, Steve.
Yeah, that's right.
Real alcohol.
When do I start apologising to everyone? Yeah.
Well, I think you've got to accept you have a problem first, and right now you haven't reached acceptance.
Denial.
You're still in denial. But no, it was a good show. It was a good catch up with the boys from the Horseshoe Bar.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of fun. I got a bit of feedback from it. Everyone seemed pretty happy with the proceedings.
Yeah, I thought it went really well. I thought the 4 or 5 of us was a good dynamic, and yeah, I wouldn't mind doing it again one time.
We definitely might have a few, pardon the pun, a bit of time between drinks because I had a bit of a sore head the next day and had to teach my zoo class, and it wasn't the best.
Wow.
No.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot to do that Saturday. Obviously, not a lot of action in the lawn.
No?
Which
Well, we've seen the photo of the lawn.
Yes.
It's finally made the page.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Have we got the Ship Bloke Awards coming up anytime soon, SP?
Well, if you want to, we can dive into it. But you know what? Let's have a bit of intro music first.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Can't do it without the intro.
Many are born flogs, but only a select few are truly eligible for the Shit Bloke Awards. With your host, Spee Caruana.
So there we go. There's the Shit Bloke Awards. Steve, what have you got for us this week? Oh, he's actually got it written down, 3, 2, 1. He's organised today. This is not just off the top of the dome.
Well, okay. Well, I'm going to start it off. I'm going to fire it up. And it's a 1 vote to S. Caruana.
Oh, jeez.
1 vote.
I'm up to 7.
Yeah, that's all right. Taking the lead over Kevin Durant again. It's because of the lawn shaming that occurred. So you see, folks, I went and picked up Spee all the way at his house, drove across country to
You were
tour.
already in the city.
Right. Picked him up, drove him all the way back to my house, invited him into my household with my wife, my lovely kids, introduced him to my children. And after all of that, after he came in and ate in the house that Blas built, 2 or 3 days later, he posts a photo of my lawn, which he knows damn well is not growing. He knows it's not growing, but he posted it anyway.
It really is a summer lawn. That winter is really taking a toll on that front lawn.
And the next door neighbours, like, as someone mentioned, it was lush. Just have a look at it. It was overgrowing all over the concrete, like the path. It's a mess. It's a mess.
Now, I just got one rebuttal point.
Okay,
I'm going to
please.
accept my point on the tune
Okay,
because
thank
I
you.
did post it in the hope that I would annoy you. But Steve, who took that photo?
Yeah, I took the photo.
There you go, okay,
I took the photo, but I didn't but I thought you were marvelling at it as how I was holding up in winter.
I think you could see from my arms out, what the fuck is this pose?
I didn't know what you were doing,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. I was just like, come inside, meet my family, Spee. You know, we're all friends here. No, you threw him under the bus. So that's one vote for you.
Okay.
The second one, and this is going out to the listener.
All right.
The listener is going to get 2 votes today.
2 votes.
Yes, because if I was not mistaken, the other day Australian Survivor was on.
Yes.
And one Esperos was not cast on that show.
Well, did you fill out application?
Well, actually, this is why the listener's getting the vote, because we put it out to the listener many a time to start getting a petition involved.
Yep.
To get, and I'm not on there.
Yeah.
And it just came. I'm like, well, you know what? The listener deserves 2 votes.
2 votes to the listener.
Yes, 2 votes to you, listener. Now, number 3. Now, this one is actually going to be groundbreaking. This is not even going to be 3 votes. This is going to be a credit note.
A credit note.
A credit note.
What's this?
I'm going to give you a credit note because of the outstanding, and I think Spee will like this one. This is outstanding behaviour. And just in case, so because if he gets some votes throughout the year, it's just going to come off these. Okay,
Yep.
So he's in credit, and that is LeBron James.
Ooh.
He's going to get 3 credit votes because of the marvelous actions of his what's it called? The
I Promise School.
I Promise School. I was very impressed. I thought it was fantastic. Finally, where an athlete of his stature is doing something like that's amazing. So I thought LeBron deserves some credit votes, should I say?
There we go. So he's in surplus. So if you want to
He's
pot
in
him later,
surplus.
he's good to go.
That's right.
Well, I've got just pulled the photo up on the thing, but this is the thing that really wins it over. I mean, there's been athletes that have started schools, like charter schools, this and that. This school gives the kids free tuition, free uniforms, a free bike and a helmet to get to school, free transportation within 2 miles, free breakfast and lunch and snacks, a food pantry for the families as well. It's not just the kids coming to school. GEDs, which is their sort of replacement, year 12, and job placement services for the parents of the kids that come to this school, and guaranteed tuition at the University of Akron for every student who graduates. This is ridiculous. This is the thing that everyone says, oh, these athletes get paid too much. Well, if these athletes are going to do things like this, they deserve more money. And this is one thing that's really put him above and beyond a lot of other sort of athletes or celebrities and charity stuff. He really is trying to give back, to the community, the small city where he's come from.
Yep, and I'm giving him 3 votes back as well. He did very well. I was very impressed when I saw that posted. I was like, good on you, LeBron. As much as we have a dig at him on the basketball court compared to Jordan and vice versa, I think he's definitely beating Jordan in the social standing in life.
Meanwhile, I sent you that photo of Michael Jordan walking down the street with the bottle of tequila.
Oh, no, you didn't send me no photo.
I think I've posted it somewhere, but there's a
okay.
photo I sent you. One man's building a school, the other one's enjoying some day drinking. That's what we're really dealing with here.
Yeah.
Like I said, on the court we can argue, this, that, the other, but off the court, I think just not even like as far as just a basketballer, just as in as a athlete, he is just without peer at the moment. He is just the amount of stuff that he's doing for the community is just outstanding. And
Outstanding.
I'm proud he's my favourite athlete.
Yes, and good on you. So, shooting over to you now. Have you got anything for your awards?
We got 1 vote.
Yep.
1 vote from me, from one N handball, our mate Nick. Purely because he just posted one of the crappiest jokes I've ever seen on And I like a bad joke. But this one was terrible. It was like a little meme thing he put in his Instagram story. He knows what he's done. You know what you've done, Nick. You get a vote. You got one. You're on the board. Other than that, I haven't been that angry. I haven't had an angry week. It's been good. I'm going to give 3 positive votes to Patrick Cripps for just making me the happiest man in the world. But we do have some votes sent in from another listener, old Lukey Colgan. 1 vote to Big Rowan Herbstreit. Herbstreit. Now, anyone that's involved in the Australian wrestling scene will know who this is. This is the Vince McMahon of Australian wrestling. Basically, he's the only one that could be bothered helping to put the whole thing together for so many years. So he's pretty much been the tireless warhorse of Australian wrestling, but this has nothing to do with wrestling. See, Rowan is a Richmond Tigers fan.
Oh, yes.
And he's been one of those sort of, wear his scarf to the game, sit there, clap quietly. If they lose, it doesn't really bother him. But, apparently, this man is up and about at the moment. So, from the words of Luke, arrogant about the Tigers, was heated saying things on the weekend, such as, I didn't think it would be this close when they played against Collingwood. Just that hint of almost Hawthorne-esque arrogance. Now just looking down his nose at people like, oh, hey, you played really well against us. You know, like that sort of bullshit. Yeah, just real wanker stuff. So, Rowan, you're on the board. 2 votes for my mate for Melbourne weather. I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Melbourne is stink town as far as weather goes. It's absolutely shocking.
Adelaide's not too far behind at the moment, mate. It's dreadful.
But we come good. We come good in summertime.
They
don't have the good. And 3 votes, because our man is a diehard St Kilda fan. For Alan Richardson, he's a St Kilda coach. He just wrote 3 votes. Alan Richardson, self-explanatory.
Okay.
He's not happy with the current system over in St Kilda. So that's going to be my votes for the week.
Okay, so you dialed him in. You called him in.
Yep. Like I said, if we get the listeners, get the feedback in, it's become a new thing.
Yeah.
Everyone's happy to send in a few votes here, there, and everywhere.
Speaking of feedback,
Yep.
Have we got any other feedback?
Well, we do. Surprisingly.
Yeah.
Well, not surprisingly.
Okay.
We do have another update from a certain listener.
Old mate Greg.
Yes.
Old mate Greg. He's
Now,
back.
Steve.
Yeah. Has he forgiven me?
Of course not.
Okay.
Jesus.
No worries.
I think you'll find out why.
Okay.
Because I think he thought we sort of ignored him last week.
Oh.
And he's not happy.
He's not happy.
No. So we've got a letter.
We don't have a 3rd segment, Greg. We don't have, we've got 2 as it is, mate.
Yeah, the man's hurting. Steve.
Okay, I know, but I mean, you didn't run the show here, man.
Okay.
Jesus.
It just says, don't be blasé podcast. That's it. It's not even...
Dear.
That's it. It's just both of us, apparently both of us are in the toilet now. I thought it was
What have you
Steve
done
Burrows.
wrong?
I don't know, but it was Steve Burrows last time. Now it's just addressing the show. Very formal and angry.
Wow.
Now that I'm a single man... Oh, shit.
Ooh.
Oh, shit. It's started spicy.
He was on the couch only a couple of weeks ago.
Well,
What's happened?
It's like, long things happen in 2 weeks.
Okay,
It's a long time in footy. Everyone knows that. I decided to initiate contact with one of the fitness models of my beloved fish. Sorry, Greg. Good. Just reach out to those girls. They don't get enough inboxes during the day. I mean, why not? It's worth a try, right? Well, shoot your shot, mate. Live your best life. So I reached out to Jen Selter. Oh, good choice. And told her my story.
You know Jen?
I know Jen because she was briefly dating the unicorn. My man, Chris Porzingis.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
wow.
It was one of those things when Chris Stapps went down, everyone was just like, Jen, look after him.
Yeah.
Poor man. Anyway. And told her about my story, how a small-time small-time podcast with 17 listeners ruined my life. Well, you know what, Greg? This sort of attitude probably ruined your fucking life, mate. Anyway, I don't like... hey, we can make fun of ourselves.
That's it, man. Throwing a lot of shade over there, man.
She wasn't very receptive, and the only response I've got was a message saying she could never date a guy named Greg, even if he is Australian.
Hang on now.
Well, he wrote Greg in quotations. I was going to say. He doesn't want us to real name him. So he's only ever sending us the fake name.
So I wonder what his real name is.
This guy thinks he's some sort of pro wrestler or some shit. What a bust. I even sent her a picture of a wrestler named Rocky Monero and said it was me, no dice. Thanks for nothing, Speed. Oh, that's why I'm getting potted now. Yeah. So you tried to catfish her with a photo of me.
Catfish.
Yeah, you son of a bitch. Signed, Greg.
Oh.
You know what, Greg? I'm glad you're single. Yeah, don't, because my brother did this before. My brother met the lovely Mrs. Caruana.
Yeah,
he was on the Tinder, and
he did not.
He had 3 photos on his Tinder, all photos of me and him together. So there was like 3 photos.
A bit ambiguous.
Yeah, 2 blokes together every time. Same 2 blokes. He goes. He got into a couple of conversations. He goes. One girl, after chatting to her for about 2 weeks, goes, which one are you? And he goes, the one on the left, which was him. And he goes, then just crickets. Mate, Sam's fucking right, mate. Don't be putting me out there. Because, like, a lot of people, like I said, it sounds wanky, but a lot of people in Adelaide know who I am. You know, I've worked at, like, a lot of places. I have a very recognisable name. It's like, don't be putting yourself out there as me, mate. Like, don't be ruining my I've already ruined my reputation enough. I don't need you adding flame to the fire.
Dennis, far out. All right, so thanks for your feedback there, Greg.
Yeah.
At least I feel like I'm a bit off the hook now.
Well,
not the hook, but you know, I think a bit of the attention's gone your way now.
Well, I think we need to swing it back your way.
What? No.
Because you started all this.
All I did was tell you a funny story.
Yes.
How the hell did I know Nancy was going to... How the hell did I know that was going to happen?
Well, you didn't...
We don't have many listeners, man.
No, but, you know...
There's about 500,000 people in Adelaide.
It's a small city.
Yeah, I know, but...
Well, I think he's going to pay attention to the guy that smells like B.O. because he doesn't shower before he gets on the train.
I don't smell like B.O. And then plus, I stand and my arms are down. Yeah. When you said I don't hang on the stuff, I lean against the wall of the train. So, I'm not smelling. I don't think I am anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can't believe this has happened. I'm sorry, Greg, again. I'm not sorry about you throwing shade on our show and stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
But, I'm sorry that you and Nancy aren't working out.
Yeah, like I said, we don't want to see anyone break up a family. No. But, fuck, like... Don't hang shit on us, mate.
Nah,
we're just two blokes just telling shitty stories into a microphone.
I could have told you about the whole Rocky Marinara photo thing, man. It didn't work for me. I got to give you a heads up about that.
You know what? Yeah, before everyone starts potting me, I feel like I'm on drag here. Let's have another recap from last week.
Okay.
Last weekend, I had the absolute honour, pleasure, and privilege of meeting one Sophia Burrows. This little girl has absolutely stolen my heart. She is the sweetest. This girl is so nice and so sweet. I don't know how Steve is her father. She is the most beautiful little girl. I've walked into the house that Blas built after being disgusted with the dredged up carpet that he calls a lawn at the front. And I've walked into it's a beautiful abode, by the way. It's greeted by...
Even in the pause?
Yeah, even in the pause. Lovely. Once you're inside, lovely.
Just lock the doors. Windows.
No, it was lovely. You live in a lovely place. You live in a lovely area, Steve. You. I do love the place. And shout out to the takeaway place we got chicken and chips from, because that was really good too. I enjoyed that. Yeah. But this little angel just moseys straight up into the kitchen, all confident, bright-eyed, arm out, shake the hands... Nice to meet you. It was the cutest thing I've ever seen. Yeah. And I've been in love ever since, Steve.
Yeah, straight away, you can't do it on a radio kind of podcast thing, but straight away, Speed turns to me with these she's got me already. Yeah, it's a term that we call. It's called getting Sophia-ed.
Yeah,
and you have been Sophia-ed.
I have been Sophia-ed. That little girl has me around her little finger. Like whenever she needs it, Uncle Speed will step in and sort anybody out.
Speed did enlist his Uncle Speed. Privilege / right / obligation to protect it all at all
costs for the rest of her life. She's won me over, that little angel.
Yeah, so just fellas, in 10-15 years time.
We have mentioned that if when she gets a bit older, because Steve was lamenting how she is gorgeous and she's just an absolute sweetheart, and he knows that eventually there will be some sort of jerk off that'll trying to have a crack. And I have offered to provide the Will Smith services from Bad Boys 2.
Bad Boys 2.
I'll be Trigger Mike. I'll kick the door open. Who the fuck is this? Like, I will do that because this little girl, she's just so sweet, Steve.
Yeah, thank you, man. I think we're very proud of her. We're very proud. But we have enlisted her in karate lessons.
Yes.
And she is going to go for her orange belt in a couple of weeks. So we're so super proud. Yeah. She's been... I'll tell you a quick story. We took her... She caught on to karate pretty quickly, actually. She's very good. She's very she's very coordinated.
Yes.
And she listens, she pays attention, so she's a very good student. Anyway, she was only in there for about a month or two, but she was already outstanding compared to some of her fellow students. And then out of the blue, the sensei sits them all down and says, all right, there was a grading on the weekend, which Sophia was not privy to.
Okay.
And they said, and we're going to give out new belts. And Sophia looked at it was the wife was there at the time, and she looked at like, oh, what's going on here? And they handed out these belts in front of her.
Oh no!
And she was like, oh, what have I done something wrong?
Yeah.
Which So then this happened a couple of times as other kids rocked up to the sessions because she goes about 2 or 3 times a week. Anyway, since that moment, that was about 2 or 3 months ago, she's been like, Daddy, I'll get the orange spell. And it's like, it almost breaks you down, because it's like, she obviously wants it so badly. She felt like she has let the family down, so to speak. So, anyway, so she is in a couple of weeks' time. I'm going to go for an orange bell. I'm very, very super excited for it.
I think this is good because I'm sick of the participation trophy.
Yeah.
And I want this is like little fire in her. Like
Yeah.
she's now going to become the best around.
Oh.
Nothing's going to ever keep her down.
Dude.
She is going to paint the face, sand the floor, and she's going to get that orange belt.
Yeah.
And she's going to make the family proud.
Yeah.
And any Cobra Kai fuckers come to the house. I don't care if they're dressed as skeletons. I'll kick some bones, mate. Yeah, I'm so proud of her. I'm so glad she didn't sook about, I didn't get it, everyone else got it, I didn't get it. This is making me love this child even more. The fact that she's just like, nah, that's it, I'm knuckling down, I'm going to raise the borough's name to prominence because my dad didn't.
Oh, wow.
You had your chance in the middleweight title and you blew it.
Threw it away. I threw it away, but anyway. So that's pretty cool. I'm very excited for the karate grading. I'll let you know how that goes.
Yeah, we definitely need to know. We need Sophia updates. I think she almost might be a new segment. We need to get like a little voiceover from Sophia because, if you ever see this child or get the privilege of meeting this child, she's an absolute jet. But speaking of fighting, we did have one altercation in the NBA or NBA circles over the week. Steve, let us know who got into a bit of a stoush.
Into their own, their karate bout. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but LeBron had a after party of sorts
for the SBs.
And Tristan Thompson from Cleveland was there, and for some reason, Draymond Green made the fucking invite list. Who the hell was inviting that dude to anything?
I don't know.
He is a bum.
He's a bum.
He's a bum, and I wouldn't. Yeah, if he played on my team, I still wouldn't be inviting him to my shindigs. Anyway, do you remember what game was it when they kind of got into a bit of a stoush?
It was like game 1.
Was it that early in the series? Was it?
Yeah,
When
it was
they
in overtime. Yeah,
that's right. And he obviously, old Draymond said something. Tristan wasn't the fan, and a bit of a thing happened. Well, Tristan got his comeuppance the other day when Draymond allegedly had tried to apologise. Tristan wasn't having it.
Well, see, now from what I've heard, apparently followed him around. They've been to a few different, bars and places before they went to this after party. And Draymond was still hanging shit on him.
Oh.
So everyone's trying to paint Draymond as being a bit of a, he was trying to be a peacekeeper. No, Draymond was still stoking the fire. And then when he did finally go up to it, say, just fucking with you, Tristan basically gave him the don't argue to the face.
A bit of a face smushing, I heard. That was one of the explanations. So I just thought that was quite interesting. This is these are professional basketball players.
Yeah.
It's one thing. It's my opinion. It's one thing to get. I mean, I'm ultra competitive, and on the basketball court, I will get in stoush and stuff, but that's generally where it stops.
It stays on the court.
It stays on the court. But these two fucking morons, I just find that interesting that they get into it at LeBron, who, by the way, is the world's greatest dude in the world at the moment. They shit on his party and get into a bit of a stoush.
Well, I just think
having it.
Draymond's not, like I said, you can just see what you see is what you get. There's that thing where. There's guys that were a certain way on the court, certain way off the court. And once there's that white line fever. Once you cross over onto the court or the field, you're someone different, and then when you step off it, you're someone else. He just seems like he's a fuckwit 24/7. And it's just like, all right, cool. That's the way you want to be. That's the way you're going to be. That's the way he's going to be. And the thing is, you can't doubt him. He's been successful.
He's been successful because his teammates.
Exactly, but he luckily landed in the right circumstance and this and that. Once, these free agents start coming around and he wants more money because he's still on a good contract, I think he's going to find out how important he is. He's going to have to take a bit of a haircut to stay with this team because he's one of those guys, if he goes to a different team, different system, he'll be, just another guy.
Yeah.
But he's lucky at the moment he's in the right situation. So it's all good for him to run his mouth now. If he ever ends up on another team, I think it'll all come crashing down pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I do you recall, I think it was maybe 1 or 2 finals ago, when he's had a real mental attack at his own teammates. Remember that?
Yeah.
And he went into the locker room and he's like, I think he took a couple shots, bad shots or something like that, and then he went in there and people were like,
He had to go with Steve Kerr.
He did. He just seems like the biggest dick. It kind of reminded me of when Ron Artest was a real bully as well, man, Until Ben Wallace fucking stood up, and then I wish Ben Wallace come back just for a season.
I did enjoy it. That's one of my favourite, because we're talking about the Malice in the Palace. It's one of the great fights of all time. Now, Ron Artest, somewhat known as a hard man. And he was, legitimately.
Oh, no, he didn't give him credit,
Hard, defensive. gets into that little stoush of Ben Wallace. As soon as Ben Wallace stalks it, I'll sit this one out.
Yeah, he did, man. That's right.
It was just like Ben Wallace was the Charles Oakley of the time.
He was.
You know, it's like you always see those old like Bulls-Knicks fights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I think there was one where Pippen and Oakley started to get into it. It was the only time I've ever seen Michael Jordan drag somebody away, just grab Pippen and went, no. Like, you know, I get aggressive, I'm competitive, but you don't want to mess with Oak. You know, and it was one of those sort of situations. I think Artest realised this is you're in Detroit as well. You know, not only is Wallace a beast, but, you know, you're in his hometown. You are just asking for trouble there. So he just sort of, you know, backed off, went laid on the scorer's table, and then he got hit with a drink, and then the rest is history. But yeah, no, I do enjoy watching the big stare-downs, but it's going to be interesting that first game between Cleveland and Golden State. I would honestly not be surprised if both of them were ejected before halftime.
Well, my question is to you, Spee, is anyone actually watch Golden State versus Cleveland? It's like the old Chinese thing, you know, like if a tree falls in the woods and
no one hears it.
Yeah, it didn't actually make a sound. It's got to be the same thing when Golden State plays Cleveland next game, because who gives a fuck?
Yeah, no, it's gonna be a few games. I think it's bad. Like I think Draymond pretty much alluded that on his Snapchat. It was just like, yeah. I feel sorry because they're having a little, because apparently someone started a Facebook thing like organising a parade for Tristan Thompson for punching Draymond, but then he's just like, you guys can have your parade, you're not going to have anything because LeBron's gone. It's like,
True.
Stiff, but
True.
fair.
Fair.
I think Cleveland's going to go back to being the world shittest sports town.
Yeah.
But this is a good rivalry.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about rivalries because I was thinking about that. I'm getting back into my wrestling. You know, I got into wrestling. Had a show last week.
How'd that go?
Went quite well, actually.
Yeah.
Had fun with Steve Miller. His guy just returning. It's his second match back. And he was really, really good. He's had about 5 years off. And the first match he had back was against Chris Basser, Mimic. And it was really, really good. He goes, and then Chris was talking to me. He goes, oh, no, yeah, he's fine. I'm like, mate, he wrestled you. You're really good. Like, I'm not that good anymore. So, but no, we had a really good little match. Like, it was pretty simple. Just kept it simple, easy story. And he was really, really good. And I was thinking about, you know, matches like that and creating stories and that sort of thing. And like, personally, who were your favourite guys to wrestle? And who was your favourite rivalries in wrestling?
Guys who I actually wrestled against personally.
Yeah. I just basically want you to tell me how good I am.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. It was Johnny. I mean, it was... obviously, I haven't wrestled in a long, long time, and the guys...
Thank God.
Yeah, the guys I wrestled against, they would be still around, but they kind of split up now, and they're probably a lot different to when I wrestled them anyway.
Yeah.
We were probably kids when I was doing it, so... Yeah, I always had good matches, I felt, with Rocky. There's a little fella called Johnny, who's a bit of a... he's been around in Adelaide for a long, long time. All those guys, you know, Jag, I had a few good matches with them. Benny, obviously had a great match with Benny. But I never really had a rivalry.
No,
I never had any rivalry. But in the WWE world, or in the world of wrestling, I think Hulk Hogan and Sting. I thought that was one of my favourite rivalries because it was at a time when...
1997.
I hadn't watched wrestling for probably 5-6 years at that point in time. The future wife got me into it.
There you go.
Yeah, and she, because her and her brothers would watch it, and she goes, my first inclination was to say, oh, is Hulk Hogan still around, you know, because he's my guy. And they said, yeah, but he's an arsehole. I was like, what are you talking about, he's an arsehole? And it's like, he wears black. I was like, get the fuck out of it. Well, you know, this was Hollywood Hulk Hogan, who I'd never heard about. So then I started watching it, obviously, and there was the Sting. Sting, for the unwrestling initiated, was the baby face of the company they wrestled for, WCW at the time. And they built that storyline for probably 12 to 18 months. Yeah. And it was sensational. It turned out to be the final match wasn't probably what it built up to be, but everything that led up to that moment was amazing, and which led to a huge, awesome... Well, whether that's a rivalry or not, but it was a great storyline.
That's the thing. Like, that's the whole thing that makes these sort of things. Does it make you want to come back and see what happens next week? And they did that whole thing where Sting was like, you know, Sting and Hogan were similar sort of characters, like the original inclinations of them. Big, loud, bright coloured, you know, larger than life, you know, Mr. Goody Two Shoes, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, Hogan had turned into a bad guy. He's got the black on. He's I did it for the money, this and that. I'm taking over the world, blah blah blah. And Sting went into what was a character apparently created by Scott Hall, Scary Sting, which was basically just a blatant rip-off of Brandon Lee from The Crow.
Yeah.
So he had the white face paint with the black lines and stuff on it, and he would just sit in the rafters. It was just genius. He didn't have to do anything. He would just stand upstairs in the rafters. They would point a spotlight at him, random spots during the show, and he'd point it back towards the ring. That was it. Every now and then he would abseil down to the ring and beat somebody up, but that was very few and far between. The beauty of that whole story was they didn't touch each other.
Yeah,
and you were just hanging for them to actually have a match because they never actually physically got together. The problem is now, with so much TV and so many hours to fill with the WWE, they've got the top guys fighting each other, which feels like almost every week.
Exactly.
And this is the reason why I love, just a side note, the reason why I love a guy like Brock Lesnar, because he's never there.
That's right.
So the champion feels like it's a prestigious sort of thing because it's like, well, the championship doesn't get defended all the time. Much like, the UFC. The UFC champions aren't on every show. They pick and choose their fights here and there. You get maybe 2 or 3, usually just 2 big fights a year from them. And I think that's the way they're doing that with the WWE title is actually genius. I'll probably get a lot of backlash from wrestling fans about that, but I think it's perfect because the whole thing is wrestling's supposed to be portraying itself as a real contest. It's a show about a wrestling a wrestling league, but it's the way they're presenting it with the champion as being this sort of special attraction makes it even better.
Definitely, and that's probably why Hulk Hogan did so well in those old days, is that it wasn't televised every week for 3 hours, and, there wasn't 15 fucking pay-per-views a year. They would have a Saturday night main event here and there, and then they would tour around and they'd wrestle, 300 times or whatever they used to say they did, but, it was, they would televise one match, and then they would go sell 8 matches after that, which, and that's what would sell the tickets. And then they would do another televised match. But now it's on all the time. They got several programs. Yeah. It's just, so that's why probably Hulk Hogan had such a good run in those 80s. Yeah. But the 90s run, what he had was sensational.
That was outstanding. Yeah, that's up there for me.
What about you? But from a personal point of view, you've obviously, I've stopped wrestling for years and only come back sporadically. You've actually probably had actual rivalries, though.
I've had 2 sort of ones that I really remember. They were sort of like my favourite. And they're both at Right City Wrestling where I am now. And that would have been my angle with Elliot Sexton and one with Mimic, like Chris Basso. So one of them they pretty much went one after the other into each other. So I was sort of at the top of my game in 2011 when I was a young cat. I was at your age, Steve, 27. And I don't know, it started off as nothing. It was like Sexton had to make his debut. I finished a match. He jumped in the ring, beat me up and said, I'm here, I'm fighting the best, blah, blah, blah. He also went on to do the world's longest promo, but that's a different story. We went from there into just every month, we do monthly shows here. Every month we got involved with each other's matches somehow, and I tried, he would beat up somebody else and I would slide in, try to defend them, he'd run away. I'd have a match, he'd run out, interfere, I would lose. Things like that. It just kept going back and forth. We had a tournament. They always have a 2-night tournament where, obviously go through to finals. And I lost my first match because he runs in the ring and everyone thinks he's going to hit me, he kicks the ref. So then, therefore, other guy gets disqualified. No, he doesn't kick the ref. Sorry, he kicked the other wrestler. So the other wrestler gets disqualified. So I get disqualified for interference. Just shit like that. We just kept that going for the better part of a year. Even we had a singles match, and when I was about to beat him, he just walked out through the crowd. And he even had his keys in a sock in his jocks, in his trunks, and he pulled that out, went straight out to the car, and just drove off.
Yeah, that's good.
It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with it, and it ended after the big lumberjack match. Everyone standing around the ring, and that was a lot of fun. I did have an interesting story with that one because that was, like I said, 11 months in the making, and we had sold out that venue. I think it was maybe 350 people, and it was a Saturday night. The Friday night before, I'd been wrestling in Melbourne. And I had to fly home the next day. So get to the airport, and as me and my mate Luke, always traditionally late to the airport, dropped me off at the Tiger Gate. Now, the TV show, that Airways or whatever, was filming in the Tiger Gate at Melbourne. And I'm thinking, oh shit, I don't want to get my head on here, because it's always they always make it seem like some sort of drama. I go up to the counter, I'm like, hey, I'm a bit late, I didn't do my online check-in, can I check in now? They're like, yeah, no worries. I said, she's just chatting to me. She goes, yeah, no, these guys are filming, and blah, blah. We're just having a conversation. And then I went to go pull out my bank card. She goes, oh, it's like a surcharge we pay with card. I'm like, all right, cool. She goes, you got any cash? I said, yep. And as I reach in my back of my pocket for some cash, she goes, oh, no. I said, what? She goes, while we were talking, they closed the flight. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, I can't reopen it from here the flight's been closed.
Oh.
I said, well, this is bullshit. Like, I'm in the terminal. She goes, yeah, no. It's sort of like a fault. But she goes, yeah, like, we can refund your flight. I'm like, cool. How do I get home?
I want to get home.
I don't care about having the money. I want to get home. And she goes, well, I can put you on the next flight, which is at 5 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
And she goes, but that's been oversold by 3 people, so there's no guarantee you'll get on that flight. So now I'm stressing out, but I'm trying not to stress out because I don't want to get my head on the TV for the wrong reason. So I'm like, okay, like, let's see how this goes. And I was like, all right, no worries, thank you. And so then they refund my flight. Well, they said they'd come back to my bank account in a couple of days. So I quickly called my friend. Call my friend's wife. I'm like, Kate, can you quickly get me a flight? I need a flight like badly back to Adelaide. She goes, just found one, Qantas, $120. I'm like, yeah, cool, book it. I'll fix you up later. So she books it. Great, sweet. Qantas, it's about 3 hours from now. It's about maybe 4 o'clock or something. Sweet, I can just chill out in the Qantas lounge, no worries. And it keeps telling me to go downstairs where the Jetstar is. And I'm like, well, this ticket says Qantas. Why is it telling me to go sit with the people in Paulsville in Jetstar? I'm a snob everywhere I go, Steve. But then I was like, kept waiting. Get closer to the time, and it's like, well, boarding now for this flight. I'm thinking, I don't want to go down to Jetstar. This thing says Qantas. I'm starting to stress. I'm like, have they fucked up my flight? And is this was this a bad ticket or something? Walk down there, and it's like this gate. Yep, no worries. Like 27. Go through gate 27. Walk down to the tarmac. It's Qantas Link, which is their regional service.
Oh.
So
with the propellers on the wings.
Twin propeller blade. I'm like,
shit.
is this thing going to even... Do we have to, stop on the way?
Yeah,
but
wow.
no. And it was the best because it was like the 2 seats on one side, 1 seat on the other side. I got the single seat.
Oh, beautiful.
So just by myself and got home on time. Can't blame Qantas Link. I just, I judged a book by its cover. Shouldn't have. I got home, quickly dropped off my Melbourne wrestling gear, grabbed my Adelaide wrestling gear, got to the venue. It was like doors open at 7. I get there at 6:58. There's Sexton standing in the ring. Goes, oh, good, you showed up.
Yeah, thank you.
We went on to have a good match. But then after that, I went into being a super bad meanie. The old bad guy did the big turn on Chris Basso, who was my friend at the time. Got one of the great sort of angles of being able to cut off his hair. He had dreads for like 10 years and he was going to be in the police force, so he needed to get a haircut. I'm like, oh, can you let me do it?
Yeah.
So I cut off his hair. Yeah, it was good. Because one of those things where you actually got a legitimate gasp from people because they go like, that's not meant to happen. You know, like anytime you can create those moments is always fun. So we went into our sort of little angle, went for about 3 or 4 months. And then, ended up losing. Then I took the time off. That's when I went overseas and stuff. But that was the most fun I've ever had as a wrestler.
Yeah.
But as far as the angles that people actually might know or care about.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I just went on my own little tangent there. I do that it's about the 30-minute mark every show.
Yeah.
I go into business for myself. But mine's going to be Triple H and The Rock. But not from when they were both champions. I'm talking once again, 1998 section.
Okay, right.
When it was the leader of the nation versus the leader of DX. And they had a really good rivalry. And it was one of those things like, they never really wrestled each other. It was always like, 6-man tags or 8-man tags. And, most of the time it would be like The Rock wrestling X-Pac and then Triple H would be wrestling, like D'Lo or something. And they sort of were going at each other, but without directly actually having to fight each other. So that was really, really good. And then they finally culminated in like a ladder match at SummerSlam, and that was really, really cool. So that was always my number one.
Yeah, well, and the other one, obviously, that was around the same time, about maybe a year or two earlier than that. It actually went over a few years, actually, is Rock and Stone Cold.
Yeah.
And when they did some really good stuff. When I started watching that was when WWF just came onto our TV.
Yeah.
And I think they were competing for the Intercontinental belt, maybe.
Yep.
And they were doing some really cool, funny stuff. Like, I remember one of them threw the belt in the river or some shit. And it was a good time for wrestling, though, those 90s. The Hogan Rock had a good one.
Yep.
It's a bit garbage leading up to when Rock was in an ambulance and he got run over by a truck and stuff like that.
And came back next week with just a Band-Aid on his ribs.
With a Band-Aid on his ribs. But otherwise, that was a good little one. And then Hogan and Andre. Hogan was a good... I'm
feeling Hogan was going to feature highly for you.
Yeah. I think that's probably my top rivalries. Yes. Yeah.
That's all you got?
Yeah, that's all I got, man. Yeah. It's funny because when you said let's talk about wrestling rivalries, I was like, that's good. And then I realised I don't like wrestling anymore. And I was like, I started trying to,
Well, I think that's something in common with our listener because
I
don't
know
they care too much when we talk about wrestling.
Didn't they have turned off already by now?
Probably. As soon as I started my story and they realise, oh no, it's one of these again, they'll probably end up in about 10 minutes.
We got our Shit Bloke Awards. We got our Greg story. We're out.
Yeah, we're out. And we don't blame you. You know, like, other than that, like I said, my only other one is probably, I don't know, Austin and McMahon. You know, like I really enjoyed all that sort of stuff. And once again, it's for me, it's the actual wrestling match isn't as important as the lead-in, and that was the perfect definition of it because the matches they had for the most part pretty cack.
Yeah.
But all the stuff and the shit talking and this and that's what really makes it for me. So much so that like I went to the ice hockey a couple of weeks ago in Adelaide. And just the simple thing of, you know, they have the Zamboni clean the ice in between each period. And every time I see a Zamboni, all I can think of is Austin running across the Zamboni and tackling bits of the ring. Like every time I see one of those things, I get a laugh. It just makes me laugh. But that's going to be us for this week, guys. So don't forget to send in your Shit Bloke Awards. Send any feedback for Greg because I've turned on him and I'm happy to read. If you guys want to put Greg in the Shit Bloke Awards, I'm happy for that because I've turned on this guy. He's a piece of shit.
On piece of shit.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm done. You know, like
maybe we can have a rivalry between Speed and Greg soon,
mate, you said he was pretty big, so maybe.
Yeah, he's quite tall.
But that's gonna be us for this week, guys. For Speed Car One and saying goodbye. For Steve Burrows,
see you later.
We'll speak to you next week. Peace.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to OzcastNetwork.com for details.